Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 957 of our daily content grind, and today we have another Hasbro fan stream, and this is another one of those where, yes, most of what you see is either out or has been announced, but we're not here to criticize that. At this point, I've said it in the last couple streams, and I'm going to continue to make this a point. We cannot hold it against the people on these videos for the fact that what they're allowed to show us is a little bit dated. This is not meant to be strictly like, here's a bunch of new stuff type reveals. This is mostly the Transformers team getting to talk about the things that they just finished working on and can finally talk about. Any complaint you might have about how late this news is for some of you, that has to go to someone higher up on the food chain than these guys, okay? So we're going to keep that in mind. We're just going to take this stream for what it is. And that said, there was some stuff that we hadn't heard about. So I'm actually curious about that. So this is just my thoughts, my opinions as we go through. Just my little notes. So here we go. It starts with the announcement that A-Level is actually a thing. This is apparently a completely separate assortment that's going to handle top-tier Transformer characters. And it is starting with Transformers 1 Optimus Prime. It's a really good place to start because the movie is going to draw a whole lot of marketable attention. And to that end, they've also made sure that the Transformers 1 cast is apparently being kept to the deluxe class because everyone in the movie is roughly the same size, so there's no real reason to go Voyager, Core, etc. And you know what? I think that's the right move. I think that's the right move because something they also mentioned is that it makes it more available to more fans, aka younger fans. This is going to be a very kid-oriented style Transformer movie, so to make it sure that like nothing is unaffordable for kids is a good call. All right, so not against that. I think this is a good idea here. The toy itself does look good. I mean, we've already seen it before. It continues to look good. They did make a point that the smokestacks that you can see as guns here on the front, on the sides of Optimus Prime, they actually made a mention that the smokestacks themselves in the movie are going to match the rest of this kind of like slightly yellowed gray that's going on the rest of the toy. So they actually took the paint apps off, not just for budget, but also because this just makes it more accurate. So, okay, you know what? Fair. Fair. So the one on the right you see there is going to be more accurate than what we see in the movie. Also, they showed off, yes, he does have a Matrix of Leadership. It is removable. More to the point, he can hold it. They've actually figured out a way of sculpting in clips to the hands that can actually grip onto the handles of the Matrix. About time. It does still look very, very small. It looks very, very tiny in his hands, but it is extremely few Optimus Primes who can actually hold the Matrix the way it's supposed to be held. It's not supposed to be held by your fingers like this. It's supposed to be held like this, but we'll take what we can get. It's definitely a step in the right direction, let's put it that way. And I do like that it's posable enough to actually get both hands in front of him like that. So it does look like a good toy. Not knocking it at all. The big focus here, which actually I thought was going to be bigger. I thought this was, for a while, I thought this was going to be the entire live stream, but no, they just kind of get to mention it as part of the big reveals. Robosen Megatron is officially announced. As you can see, it's absolutely gigantic in tank mode. The robot mode is about 21 inches tall, which is enormous. It is voiced by Frank Welker, just as all of these Robosens so far have been voiced by the original voice actors, which is great. There are a few things to note about it. Number one, real working treads. So good on Robosen for working that in and still making it transform. It is taking a lot of design notes from the Combiner War Leader Class Megatron, which is not my favorite Megatron design. I mean, they've definitely cleaned it up to make it look more cartoon and G1 accurate, and the proportions are definitely better than that toy was. So it is still taking some weird things, because of course it's going to be a tank, not a gun. Also, since I saw it mentioned out there, I'm sorry, but you were delusional if you were ever expecting Robosen to make it a Walther P-38. Number one, Hasbro's been telling us since the early 90s that Megatron cannot be made as a realistic gun anymore. He either has to be made very small, like that one Legends class toy that came out, and even that needed an orange cap, or he needs to be like a big futuristic weapon, which still needs to have super bright colors that you wouldn't normally find on a normal gun. And even then, the Classics Megatron at this point, last we checked in with Hasbro, can't be reissued anymore because even that thing is a little bit too much. So it's a very rough spot for Hasbro to be in. And I've had someone arguing in the comments, don't argue with me. This is Hasbro. You don't know how the legalities of this work, so don't pretend that you do. So let's just be happy that he looks really good in the robot mode. And frankly, the gun is such a difficult transform to get him into. You know, like that masterpiece that actually pulls it off really well takes like 45 minutes to transform. You could never make a RoboSen do that. The Combiner War one only has like 10 steps, so you can kind of understand from that. It is a really cool look. It's an impressive piece, as all the RoboSens are. Not for me because of the price point, because I actually want to pick up and play with my toys. I don't want my toys to play with themselves. Don't take that out of context. But it is still cool to see it in motion. The transformation is really cool. My favorite part is the fact that the Decepticon symbol is the same one on the front of the tank, and there's a servo in there specifically just to spin it back and forth depending on what mode he's going into. So it's a cute little detail to throw in. The other takeaway from this is that, man, Frank has a hard time doing Megatron anymore. If you heard him in Devastation, you know, where it's a little bit higher pitched and there's a little bit more strain to it, it still kind of sounds the same way. You can hear the original Megatron in there, but you can also hear just, you know, Frank's up there in age, you know, so he's having some trouble. But it is great to get him back to do the voice, you know, especially considering Prime and Grimlock also have the original voices. So that is all well and good. Again, it's not the kind of piece for me. I think the engineering on it is absolutely fascinating, but it's just not the kind of thing I would ever personally drop money on. So let's take a look at some of the other things that I will absolutely drop money on. So they've officially revealed the comic book Grimlock, describing, okay, yeah, they know that they're fans of the original comic books, so they want to cater to them a little bit more. Noting that one, he does come with a comic accurate sword. So the other two swords are meant for Sludge and Slug, so you will have to double up on Grimlocks in order to get all of the swords for your Dinobots, but at least they are out there. And I know there's plenty of people who are going to be buying this thing and don't care about the extra swords. So look on eBay for spares if you don't want to buy a whole other Grimlock. They also pointed out that the crown was silver when it first appeared in the comic books, and it was gold throughout the rest of the run, so they made it gold here. So nice attention to detail from the Hasbro team. It is a cool looking toy. We've talked about this many times on the show before. So I did put in a pre-order because this is Pulse exclusive, by the way. Though it does sound like they are producing a heavy amount because it is Grimlock, you know. So that's officially announced. They announced Swoop back at WonderCon, but here this is the first time they've gotten a chance to talk about it now. Incorrectly mentioned as a pterodactyl. He's a pteranodon. Let's be very scientifically correct here. And for being even more scientifically correct, he's technically not a dinosaur. But that's a whole other discussion. For now, though, yes, it's still a very cool toy. I'm a little bit like annoyed. Hang on. Throat is a little dry today. I am a little bit annoyed that he's not the one who comes with all of the swords, because you would think, being the smallest of the Dinobots, he would have room in his mold for all of them. Now keep in mind, something that I mentioned on this channel many times is the fact that the first two Dinobots come with this extra figurine, which feels like instead of adding more to the Dinobots themselves and making them that little bit extra, they put the excess budget into a minifigure that could eventually be removed when budgets got tighter. And that's what we saw with Sludge and Snarl. So I pretty much always figured Swoop would be saved for the end, because being the smallest, getting him out at the end would be most likely where the budget would still be friendly toward his size. And that seems to be what has come to pass. So it took them a long time to get all 5 Dinobots out, but they did it in a very, very smart way, so that even though the budgets constantly shift in that time, they are all comparable to each other, and they all feel like they came out at the same time, which I think is a really impressive job by the Hasbro team. So full credit, full credit. Dinobots were very well done. They look fantastic together, by the way. Absolutely fantastic together. It's one of those rare times where I don't know which mode to actually display all of them in on a shelf. It's just really, really cool to see. Really cool to see. Next up, stuff that I have already reviewed. We've talked about Sunstreaker on this channel. I've got a full review up if you haven't seen it already. Too long didn't read. TLDR, it's a very, very good toy. Very fun. Probably one of my favorite Studio Series figures in a long time. They also brought up the Sideswipe, which I also have, and I think it's a little bit fiddly. I'm not terribly happy with how it turned out, but, your mileage may vary on that one. Still okay. It does do quite a bit more transforming than you would expect it to. And then they finally get to talk about the new Shockwave, and I just got this one in yesterday. It is also very good. It is very simple. I'll tell you right now, without going into a full review, it is a very simple figure, but the look and feel of it is very, very good. It is lacking bicep swivel, which is annoying, but it is a very solid figure all around, regardless. Just don't go into it expecting like a revolutionary transformation. He just kind of lays flat as an H-Tank. But you know what? That kind of works for Shockwave, so we're just gonna leave it at that, right? Next up, more toys that we, this is, as opposed to what we've been talking about before, where this stuff is already out on a shelf. This is the stuff that is only leaked so far. So we do get to hear about it for the first time from some of these guys. Starting with Sideburn, they did mention that, the one thing they really liked pointing out was the fact that they did get a painted eye underneath the translucent lens on one side, and the asymmetry of that head sculpt from RID was maintained, and that does look very good. They did mention putting a little bit of metallic in him as well, so he has a bit of shine in the vehicle mode, which also very good call. I like that. Yeah, they admitted that there was absolutely no surprise to this toy because everyone pretty much knew this was happening as soon as they saw how Shadow Striker was designed. And admittedly, they are not wrong. They are not wrong. So we've known about Sideburn for a bit. And it's I hope a promise of the other two RID Autobot brothers coming out. I don't know who you do some of the math. You could probably find some other use for like Prowl. Like I could actually imagine Prowl as like a really nice like Armada Blur retool. Just the way the shoulders transform and the chest comes together, I could absolutely see that. Don't know what you do with X-Brawn. Good luck there. Next up, let's get into some more new stuff. This one just leaked just the night before this broadcast, which is frustrating. People just dropping this stuff and basically ruining the surprise just for clout's sake. Like if you've got it to show, just show it. Don't do this. Just like ape them at literally the last minute. But this is Nucleus. This is the repaint of Magnius. And it does look cool. The idea is that he is made of pure Nucleon. That's actually not a bad idea. It's a very quartz-colored, quartz-influenced deco. Silver and white's pretty good. The hits of gold help it a lot. I was personally hoping for that green and black deco that was originally concepted for Magnius, but you know what? I'll take what I can get because I have been enjoying the rock guys. And I don't mind that mold. The vehicle mode, going for a far more futuristic and aerodynamic windshield, as well as two massive thrusters on the back of vehicle mode. I'm very proud of the team. I'm very proud of the guys on stream for never making the rocket car pun. At least I didn't hear it. Maybe they did make that, and I just like blacked out for a second as they did. Very likely, actually. But it's not a bad take. It definitely gives him a different profile and a different vibe than his previous mold version. There you see in the actual color, it doesn't look like he's pure white. It does look like there's a little bit of a tint to him. He strikes very different from his original version, though, which is the goal of any repaint. So that's cool to see. I do want to get this one in hand. because I do really like the Rock figures. Let's see, what else? Oh, this little thing came up. I don't know if you noticed it. The One Good Hot Shot's getting a new toy. Oh, and it looks so good. Oh, and it looks so good. It is basically the original Cybertron Hot Shot, just added articulation, modernized, and you know what? That's perfectly fine by me, because it's a fantastic design. You know, it's not a complex transformation. It's nice and quick. He just looks so, so nice. The vehicle mode looks really, really nice, too. They did have some leftover paint apps, so they could actually tint the key red correctly. And also, I do like that they painted the launcher. It doesn't actually launch, but it does give it a really nice look, kind of, you know, more true to the original. And then, yeah, like, it just, there's the back view, just to kind of show, like, yeah, it's basically just works the same way as the original. He's got the fins. They're mushroom pegged in now. They're opaque, so they are not the translucent yellow of the original. That's about the only thing that's a little bit off. If this was true to the original, that would be yellow. And they'd also be translucent too. So interesting that they didn't go that route. I don't think much translucent, probably because translucent mushroom pegs in general probably wouldn't survive well over time, because it's very friction and stress based how that connection point works. So I can kind of see why they went with a red. Yeah, he just looks really, really good. Poses really, really well. They mentioned that this is another one that Takara did from the ground up, just like Starscream. So if the Starscream is anything to go by, this one is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to getting this guy in hand. One of my more anticipated toys of the year. We already know, yes, that there is a red repaint coming thanks to the leak list, and I'm really looking forward to that too. This mold actually has a surprising number of options for repaints and retools. Like now we can actually get a real Shattered Glass Goldbug in modern form, and I am all for that. I am absolutely down for that. Cybertron's not done for this stream though. Oh, me as a Cybertron fan, I'm eating so well. I am eating so well on this stream. We have Vector Prime. So they did mention that, you know, previously they used the arc, you know, I can't remember the name of the book now I'm like the Covenant of Primus. They used that art to represent Vector Prime, but no, they confirmed it's Cybertron inspired. It is the Cybertron design, which is really, really cool to see on here. I'm thrilled, by the way, that they went with the animation accurate deco, the original toy deco, not the American toy. If you never saw the original Vector Prime, how Hasbro released it, Takara went with this light gray and kind of like reddish brown color for the toy, and it gives it this really cool ancient look that brings out all the detail. Hasbro, for some reason, said pure white plastic, ugly brown. And it just took away so much of the look of that toy. It doesn't sound like much of a shift in detail, but it changes the toy so dramatically. They also neglected the paint in the radar dish in his chest by just painting the entire thing bright blue, when it's actually supposed to look like circuitry going in, which is what this version does. So I'm glad that they got all the stuff correct that they missed on the first one. Vehicle mode looks cool as well. It's a little bit bulkier, a little bit thicker than the original. These solar foils, those are a little bit smaller. And that's the one thing they didn't bring over from the Takara version, the original one. They are still unpainted. But I also don't think they're soft plastic this time. Doesn't look like they are. Because nothing looks bent on them. But no, Vector Prime does look really, really nice. He looks really nice. I will mention, yes, it is very obvious he is a retool of Jaxus. It's a clever retool. I will give it that. You know, they didn't do a bad job on that one. And it is the only place where it's apparent is in the legs. It's the forearms as well, but also the legs. You can see the wiring that's going through him that was part of Jaxus's tooling, and you can see an exposed hinge that has nothing to do now. Everyone's been kind of poking fun at that. Expect a lot of people clipping those things off. So it is what it is, though, and I still think it looks really good, despite like that part being left in. We do keep in mind, Vector Prime is supposed to have this kind of like worn out, ancient look to him, so having some wires hanging out is not totally out of character. I would prefer some more sculpted gear detailing like the original toy had, but probably not getting that. So you know what? I will accept this for what it is. I still think it looks really good. And you know what? I will say, the original Vector Prime, very pretty toy. Kind of a little bit of a brick. The toy's a little bit of a brick. I'm going to enjoy having a Vector Prime that has a lot more posability to it. And just point out, they do have a slot on the sword for the Cyber Key to mount onto, so you can, that whole thing that the modern Cybertron toys have been doing is still intact. It also, as you can see, plugs onto the chest like the original toy. They also sculpted in a piece, like an area on the nose for Safeguard, his original Minicon, to mount. They didn't have room in the budget for it, but if you have the original toy still, the Minicon is compatible. They're just leaving a lot of gaps open for Minicons to do something, and they know they're creating a demand by leaving them out. You have to be very well aware of that. They know they're creating a demand. So I don't doubt, the more times we see a toy come without a Minicon partner it's supposed to have, the more we're going to get demand for them. And I think that's the idea behind it. So that's all of the stuff they had in hand. I do think a lot of it does look really, really cool. But then they have some more Space Bridge reveals. They did mention that everyone likes those, so they are still doing them. Cool. We do have Steeljaw. Confirmed that this is an 86 core release. And they did mention, they're trying to get out more cassettes. Thanks to the leaks, we do know 2 more on the way. Beyond that, they confirmed the Decepticon Ground Soldier for their Gamer Edition. Oh, sorry. Throat's just really dry today. You know what it is? It's very rare when the air is dry in Florida, but here we are. It looks like it's going to be maybe a Sideswipe retool, judging by where the wheels are on the shoulders. When this toy was leaked in listings, I thought it was going to be a Barricade retool, but apparently not. Apparently not. So, it's not a bad toy to redo if that's the case. We'll see we'll have to wait and see what the final version looks like. I'm banking on Sideswipe though. Bumblebee movie Skywarp to complete the Seekers from that movie, which is great to see. Pretty obvious to do, but it's good that they haven't skipped it. This was a big one. So 86 Springer was announced. It's going to be leader class, and they've admitted that this is going to be a retool of the figure from Siege. So this is literally a Voyager being upscaled into leader because they want to fix a lot of the flaws that toy had. They want to beef it up and make it more screen representative, which I think is a great thing for them to do. And if we get, there's already a really nice Springer toy. So if we can get that toy to be even nicer, okay, I'm willing to pay your upcharge as long as the complexity justifies it. So we will see just how much they upscale it and bulk it up. Here's the other one they mentioned for A-list. They did mention an 86 Bumblebee, which they imply is a completely new tool. And apparently hits a lot of notes that they really wanted for Bumblebee. I'm just hoping whatever kind of tooling they did on this, that it's not going to be like half shell. Just as long as the vehicle mode isn't half of a shell, I'm going to be happy. Moving on, and this is the big one. This is the big one to end on. We have a leader class Straxus announced as the next comic book inspired figure. They did mention that that was going to be a full assortment, and that every box was going to have like some kind of some kind of like piece of art that goes across the entirety of the sides. So obviously they need more in order to complete that. So they do have a lot. They do have a few more planned here, and the next one down the line is Straxus. So at leader class, expect him to be a heavy retool of Galvatron. If you ever see Straxus in the comic books, his vehicle mode literally is it basically just looks like Galvatron's cannon mode flying. So that's not too far off. There was a rumor for a long time that Straxus was on the way, and then it just kind of fell off. So I'm wondering if it just got pushed back so it could be part of this assortment, which would make sense. Makes total sense, really. And no, it's a cool character to throw in. It's a cool character to throw in. This is the one that surprised me. This is the one that caught me off guard. Because like I said, there was only a rumor before. I don't remember any listing confirming that Astraxus was on the way. But to see that it's actually announced is kind of awesome. Kind of awesome. So I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how he comes out this time. And by the way, they did use the name Straxus. Nobody called him Darkmount. So hopefully that name is available now. And that is it. That is everything they showed off. There's a lot of good stuff on the way. I don't know if you realize this, but they're making good Transformers these days. I don't know if you've noticed, but Transformers kind of be hitting pretty good these days. So I'm looking forward to these. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What are you looking forward to the most? No surprise, I'm looking forward to... No surprise, I'm looking forward to the Hot Shot. That was the sentence that came to mind. And then I realized who was saying it. And went, whoa, that's trippy. But again, this is one of my favorite designs. So, there's my thoughts. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.